currently sitting on the House Intelligence and Armed Services Committee. And I know you've had a long day so far, so we're going to begin very quickly now with the aid for Ukraine, which you voted in favor of. As an Air Force vet, a member of the House Intelligence and Armed Services Committee, give us your perspective about the importance of finally getting this aid passed.
So I'll go beyond that, actually. In addition to all of those things that you've listed, I'm also the daughter of a person who was born in Lviv in 1942. And so my father was born in Poland, what is now Ukraine, and survived the Holocaust as a very small child and came here and served in the military himself. And so I was raised up on the history of that area of the world and the fact that that part of the world is just so incredibly intrinsic to the peace and security, not only of the continent of Europe, but also to the world at large. And so the importance of making sure to keep Putin at bay and to believe him at his word was something that I was raised on. And so it's been an urgent thing for me here in Congress to ask for and plea for us to take this seriously, because I think as goes Ukraine, so goes the security of the world, frankly.
And frankly, it does appear that everyone listened to you and taking it very, very seriously. There was one thing that we saw on the House floor with supporters. I think it was maybe a couple of dozen Democratic supporters of Ukraine aid. They were seen waving the Ukrainian flags on the floor, little ones. I mean, technically, it's a violation of House rules. Speaker Johnson, after the vote, said there's only one flag that should be waved on the House floor. And given what you've mentioned about your familiar history there and what you've grown up being exposed to and understanding, Ukraine being a part of Poland when your father was born, and look, I don't want to get you in trouble, but were you one of those waving the flag today? And what's your reaction to the speaker singling out that today for condemnation? And by the way, let me just add, I also had Representative Jason Crow of Colorado on the show earlier, and I was talking about this thing, and he brought out his little flag that he had waved. So you're not alone. Yep. You're in good company.
No, I was one of the people waving the flag, and that flag is emblematic of something larger than the Ukrainian people and the country of Ukraine. It's emblematic of democracies around the world and our allyship and the fact that we are America and should be relied upon to be steady in those alliances. And so it was also a triumph for all of the people who had worked so hard to make sure that we were delivering aid to Ukraine. And also, importantly, that vote was almost at the end of the series where we also had voted on heading into a vote for Israel, heading from a vote for Taiwan. It was an important and is an important symbol.
Have you seen the reaction from President Zelensky that he posted on X? I mean, it was incredibly heartfelt. He named members of both parties. He thanked Speaker Johnson at the very end. He said, "Thank you, America." What did that mean for you to read that?
It meant a ton to me. I've had conversations with members of the Ukrainian parliament about exactly this issue. Hey, listen, I know that this is a sacrifice coming from the American people. I know that we are allocating scarce resources that could be spent other places. And I know that votes coming from members of Congress like myself, they're not easy votes. And so the idea that he would recognize almost instantly how important and hard these votes were for people to take really was meaningful to me. And I hope meaningful to my community and my constituency as well.
Yeah. You also voted in favor of aid to Israel. Look, there was talk about the possibility of significant Democratic opposition to the bill to protest how Israel is conducting the war. But what, 173 Democrats supported it. Were you surprised by how your Democratic colleagues voted?
No, it actually felt about right. Every one of those bills, all three of them were somewhere in the 300 or so out of 400 and so people in terms of supporting them. And this is an example of what I hope maybe we've shown what's possible here, regardless of who the speaker is. The speaker should be the speaker for the whole House and not for a specific party. There are about 3/4 of us here on any given day who would be supportive of any given smart, pragmatic solution to many of the problems that we have, and we just need the chance to vote.
Let me ask you one more question about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her threat to file a motion to vacate, it is being supported by 2 other Republicans. Now, if it comes to it, and it likely could, will you vote to save Speaker Johnson? And if so, what might Democrats ask for in return for that kind of support?
So this is a hard question. First of all, I'm enormously frustrated by some of my colleagues, Marjorie Taylor Greene being one of them, who feel as though one person should rule the entire body. 435 of us come representing 770,000 people each, and we ought to be able to be functional. She's thrown this House into chaos to the point where her own party is disgusted and annoyed by it. And so what I would hope is that we've passed through that. We've talked to Speaker Johnson. We've asked him for the right and the ability to vote. He has answered that, and as earlier was said, we got 4 different votes on 4 different subjects. And now we move forward, we move through, and we see what happens when we come back from our district week. But I have to say he did the right thing. I told him when I spoke to him privately that I believe him to be a good man, and I believe that he did the good thing, and he did what he said something in a public comment that he wanted to be on the right side of history. I believe he was on the right side of history, and for that, we should reward him.
Pennsylvania Congresswoman Chrissy Houlahan, I want to thank you so much. End of a long day, but I detect a smile on your face as you head home. So thank you very much for your time with us. Let's go back to Brendan Buck. Brendan, thank you for standing by again. We wanted the Congresswoman to be able to finish this long day on Capitol Hill in a typical Saturday session, as you're well aware.